we appreciate listening to your, hearing about your experiences and kind of, being open-minded and looking at all the different realms of possibility with this.
Well, I really am open-minded, and, I'm willing to be wrong yet again in my decision. And I always tell people that, especially people that get so upset that I've gone back to religion. They, first of all, I'm still open-minded. I've just made up my mind. But, I'm still open-minded. And the church is open-minded. I mean, I live here in Tucson where the Vatican has an observatory on the hill looking up at space because they're so open-minded, so...
Yeah, I love the name of that.
Well, they didn't name it. They get a lot of flack for the Lucifer acronym, but they didn't name it. They operate with that with other entities. So, but I just want to say thank you for letting me come on, and go there. It's been rough. This has not been an easy decision to go back to a religion, I must say. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had a very comfortable social life with New Age friends, and I'm married to a professional astrologer. So that's, not an easy decision to make, to go into a religion that has doctrine and rules, and some of which I'm breaking. So I realize, in some ways I am a hypocrite, and in some ways I'm really in the baby steps of this whole path. I'm in.
But, okay, I'm going to go off a little bit here. I'm going to digress for just a little bit, if you want to hear me out, and listeners want to hear me out. I personally believe, I know people get hung up in the whole religion thing. And I know that there's, you've got the Catholic religion, you've got the Judeo religion, you've got Presbyterians, you've got Buddhists. You've got the whole realm. The LDS Church here, of course, is very prominent in Salt Lake City. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it is sad to see, and I'm not, I'm just going to be cautious. I'm going to tread lightly on this one. It is sad to see how sometimes we let the politics of religion get in the way of its true core value and the true beliefs. I sometimes think that it's just things, just too many people get hung up on the politics of the religion than actually what it's all about.
Oh, totally.
And, and the thing is, we all have our own beliefs.
Yep.
We can all believe, and you've had many experiences. Carol's had experiences. I've seen a couple of things. Tons of people have seen things, but it really and truly, there is no real true proof because I don't think there's anything solid right now that anybody can really look at. There's not that solid, definitive piece of evidence there. There just isn't.
I agree.
It's all based on experience, and everybody can have a different opinion, and that's what makes this world such a great place. Is that, opinions are like things, and everybody's got one, and that's good. That's what's really good. If everybody believed in the same thing, this world would be a very, very boring place. But I do appreciate, you coming on and sharing your experiences and your beliefs, and whether people want to believe you or not, hey, that's for the people need to make up their own mind and make up their own decisions. So I'm very neutral. I'm down the middle on it. But I do appreciate you coming forward and talking about your experiences, and obviously your experiences that you've had were life-changing for you.
Exactly. And this is where I am now, So who knows where I'll be in 5 years on this subject matter. Who knows where we'll all be. I do tend to, again, return to, a lot of people would... They're kind of like all these different camps in the UFO world. Some believe that the aliens are a menace, and some believe that they are wise, benefic beings waiting for us to mature and join the galaxy. That all is very logical. Mm-hmm. But I, again, having chosen this path that's more restricted, but to me more free and more true, is that, there's nothing in the Bible about how Pleiadians are going to come and save you. It's all going to be great. It doesn't say that. So I'm sticking with what, some people may say it's a safe bet. That's fine if they want to see it that way. I have found great joy and peace in my decision, And even though I could be tempted to intellectually stay in the black hole and swirl around for another 20 years, I just walked away, basically. I can't devote that kind of energy to that subject that's so confusing when there are other things I'd rather be doing, you know? So that's the decision I made. Yeah. I spent a good long time trying to figure this out, and, you know, I'm done. I'm done.
Well, whatever helps you. I think in life it's about what helps people get through life, actually.
Well, yeah.
You know, because like
your own take on
yeah,
it.
you have to.
Everybody has a little different
people turn to different things for different reasons, and if as long as that person is happy and lives a good life, what is it for someone else to judge?
Right.
And again,
well, and it's not still happening to me. You know, some people it's still happening to them.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, obviously they're going to be still involved in, you know, dealing with it if it's still happening to them.
Yeah.
You know, there was one story that was interesting to me. I was at the UFO conference in it's near Phoenix. I can't remember the name of the town, but a couple of years ago, the UFO Congress, and I was in one of the support group little meetings, and you know, it was really great to be in that room with all these people that had relatively the same experiences, and we were talking about this. How they would come, and the aliens would come, or whatever they are, demons, would come at night at 3 in the morning. A lot of people had this 3 in the morning thing, you know, the recurring theme. And I kind of chirped up and said, well, I got woken up at 4 in the morning. And someone said, well, what month was that in? And I said, July. And they said, well, that was daylight savings time, so you were really getting woken up at 3 in the morning, too. And I was like, whoa. So, you know, every once in a while you have these revelations. And then I was, and then I learned in Catholicism, they consider 3 o'clock in the morning the devil's hour. And I never knew that until this year. And it's the inverse of the 3 o'clock in the afternoon when Christ died, allegedly, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So, you know, there are all of these, like, mysteries within mysteries that just continually blow my mind, still, you know. And, but that's been one of the most exciting things is when you meet others and you have these similar things. Like I remember I met a lady once and we were talking about our experiences and she mentioned how the being had I mentioned, I said, oh, I was so enraged at this being and then it touched me and all my rage melted away. And she said, oh, what did it do, rub your forehead? And I said, yes. And she said, oh, yeah, that's what they want to do. That's what they do when they want to calm you down. And just to have that, you know, experience with her of this commonality, this little small detail, it was just gave me the chills. But it's certainly been an interesting journey. I mean, I would have rather it not have happened, but we can say that about a lot of things in our lives. But still, the tragedies of our lives make who we are today, and they bring us along a path where certain things happen that are good, that come out of it. Right. You know, I mean, the people I met and experiences I had, they were very interesting.
Let me post some questions up to you that we got in for you. One of our listeners writes and says, Camille, you say the aliens are possibly demons. Could they have been here so long that they are actual beings that possibly were authors of the Bibles wrote about?
Yes, I mean, a lot of these writers, and people can go on my website. I have an Amazon store link on the links page, and they can see all these books that I was reading, you know, by these other authors that postulate all this. And they do say that. They say, you know, there's nothing new under the sun. These beings that were the Nephilim, that were coming down and mating with women, and God got angry, you know, if you want to look at that, and people point to, you know, as it was in the days of Noah, it shall be in the end days, and people are saying that's happening again. So these beings may be able to, I don't know the mechanics of it as far as how they go from being spirit to appearing physical. If that physicality is an illusion, you know, I know that in some Bible stories, angels were able to appear as humans and sit down and eat with humans. So, you know, it's kind of confusing to me, all the rules of manifestation, and what appearances they can take on, and what rules they play by. But I definitely see these beings as, and Jacques Vallée, the researcher, noticed this as well, that their appearance seems to change with the ages, and the craft seemed to have changed with the ages to kind of match the consciousness of that time. So, the more space age we got, the more space age the ships started to look. If you read the old accounts of UFOs in the sky, for instance, in the book Wonders in the Sky by Jacques Vallée and Chris Aubeck, you can go back hundreds of years and read UFO descriptions that they've put together. And they don't sound like the kinds of things people are seeing today. So I just see them as being able to shapeshift into whatever works for the people that they're messing with.
Right. Another question. Let me go ahead and scroll. We got quite a few of them. Another question for you is, hang on there, hold on a second, Camille. I should have put my note. I'm writing my notes here online, and I should have kept them a little better. It says, what are your thoughts about the church who say that regression therapy memories? I'm sorry. What are your thoughts about the critics who say that regression therapy memories may be implanted or suggested by the therapist?
I say that they're right, that there's every bit of that chance happening. A therapist has to be very careful with every word they say when a person's under hypnosis, because they're very easily led down a certain path. And therapists do have preconceived ideas about this phenomenon, especially therapists who specialize in this phenomenon. So you have to watch that. And hypnosis can be. I know that when people go to a hypnotist and go under, so to speak, there's no prayer, there's no protection, ritual. It's just, we're going to put you down and we're going to ask you questions. And so maybe the information you're getting under hypnosis is not safe to trust.
That's very true. And you got to have somebody, if you're going to go through that, you better have somebody that's, kind of straight and down the middle, and it doesn't have some sort of hidden agenda of sorts.
And I'm not accusing anyone that's worked with me of having that. I'm just saying that's an element of the risk of hypnosis. And my hypnosis sessions were extremely emotional and real, but I'm still distrustful of the information just because it was that real and teeth-chattering and full of terror and unlike anything I've ever experienced in my waking life. I don't totally trust it,
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh, I agree. Another question for you. Well, we've got a bunch of them. Let me go ahead and get them to you. It said, did your regression therapy allow you to remember more details about your abductions? When you went through and this is a question because this is one question I've never asked anybody who's gone through regression hypnotherapy. When you went through it, like you said, when you came into it with Barbara Lamb, you had no idea what happened. She took you through it. When you woke up afterwards, did you remember any of it, Camille, or was it just basically looking at the recordings and the notes and stuff?
Oh, no. I was alert the whole time I was remembering it. So it wasn't like I was in a trance and then I had to go back and listen to the tapes.
Mm-hmm.
I was awake and listening to myself go through it. And we would just target, like I said, the one time we targeted, what happened that night in December when I had the sleep paralysis. Or we would say, how did I get this triangle on my leg? Or how did I get this thing in my tooth? So we would just target whatever tangible target we had. That one time we targeted, why do I feel longing for some beings, and who do I miss? And that came up. So it's a great tool in its flexibility. I just don't trust it.
Okay. Well, again, you've got to definitely, Yeah. I mean, people need to, if they're going to experience this or go through this, they need to be with somebody that they can trust, and you obviously did it with the best.
Well, I did it with people who are the most knowledgeable in their fields, but I still don't trust the information or the process. Yeah. I have to say that. I'm not trying to be mean. I have trust issues with this whole phenomenon. I think it's diabolical and full of deception. I really, really, really do.
Is there ever a time that you wish you just would have never got the therapy?
Well, yeah, there's a time I wish I'd never picked up that Whitley Strieber book. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could have, who knows what I could have been. But, your life does what it does. And, and I mean, maybe this is just God's long way for me to come to him. And maybe this is astrologically, whatever, predestined. I don't know. I don't know how to explain why I went on this path. And you go through that, when this happens to you, you're like, why me? Why me? And you look at all the people you meet, and I know people of every race and every religion that this has happened to. And, I did talk to Daryl Sims. There were some people who did some pretty extensive questionnaires with abductees, asking them certain physical background stuff so they could kind of come up with, like, high correlations. And they did find that there are a lot of people who have had this experience have Celtic ancestry, and I am 35% Irish. And another factor somebody found was green eyes and negative blood type. And I have green eyes and I have negative blood type. So, I mean, there could be certain physical things that make certain people more attractive to their agenda. I don't know why. All of this goes through your mind. And then there were these, sometimes when I was in this, former way of thinking, I would get seduced into this idea of, I've been chosen, I'm helping to breed the new creatures of the future, and, you'd feel kind of warm and fuzzy about it sometimes, even though it was traumatic. You would say, well, maybe I was just like a dog at the vet, and it was scary, but I don't know their agenda, and maybe they're good aliens. And you can go that way in your thinking. And I tell you what, when I had this religious thing happen to me, and I had that surrender, I felt so ashamed. I just felt horror. Like, all of my, I've been chosen, all of my pride connected to this just went, ugh. I mean, I just fell, like, into disgust. I was like, how did I bring this upon myself? Why did I attract abducting demons into my life? What the heck? And, and then I had to give myself some slack. I said, well, Camille, demons don't always come to people who are great sinners, even though I am a great sinner. But sometimes they just mess with people for some learning experience that person's got to have. So, I can't beat myself up too much over it having happened to me. But there is an element of that. There's an element of, what have I done that attracted that into my life? But then I look at children having this experience, and I go, well, they didn't do anything, So I don't want to definitely associate it with punishment of some kind. But I'm really glad it's brought me to where it's brought me. I never thought I would be on my knees wearing a mantilla at Latin Mass, and that's where I am twice a week and more if I can get there. And I'm ecstatic to be there. I'm just so happy to be there. And, if you'd told me 2 years ago that's where I'd be, I would have laughed. I would have never believed you. Right. So I'm so happy. I mean, I can't tell you how happy I am with my decision. It's a wonderful, wonderful place I have found, this particular church, especially here in Tucson. But that's my path. Other people have found they've been able to stop it, however they've been able to stop it. But I feel really blessed that it's not happening to me anymore. I don't go to bed afraid, and I'm just grateful.
Well, and if it works for you, and whatever works for anybody. I mean, you've obviously looked at a lot of different options, and like you said, today this is the path that you're on. Something may change in your life 6 months from now and put you down a different path. I mean, it's a day-to-day type of thing, and if this helps you, or whatever people do, if it helps them to get through, so be it. I mean, and good. You know what I mean? What I'm saying is not in a sarcastic way, but good for you. I'm glad that you found your answer, that you found your solution. You know, like with these abductions, the one thing that I've found interesting with them is, okay, I've got a question first. The beings that you experienced, were they the typical grays?
Well, in that they had big heads and black eyes, but they were white, and they had white robes on. So they were not like little short guys with tight suits on.
But they did kind of fit the profile.
Yeah.
Were they, when you went through your regression therapy, when you went through your stuff with Barbara Lamb, did you, were you able to, you know, get back to the medical procedures? Was she able, or the different people that you worked with?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, in detail.
In pretty much detail, yes.
Because see, you know, I mean, here's something that I've just find interesting. Okay, to me, what I've heard from many abductees, what I've heard is the Greys are kind of cold, heartless, mechanical beings, if you will. They're like robots. But the thing that I do throw back and forth in my mind is that I think that when we talk about these subjects, I think we're always putting, how can I put it to you? We're always putting the human element, the human twist, the human compassion, the human evilness into these scenarios. And I think that, if I can, for the other side, say that realistically, some of these beings, well, they don't have human compassion. They don't have human feelings. They don't have maybe necessarily. It doesn't mean that they're bad, you know. And I'm just saying that.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you.
They're you know. It's
just because you're afraid doesn't mean they're evil. Like the dog at the vet analogy.
That's right. That's right. Doesn't mean it's a bad dog, but you know. But that's.
Well, it doesn't mean the vet's evil. It just means maybe what the vet's doing is scaring the dog.
Right.
Right. No, I understand that reasoning. But I think that being taken against your will into another dimension and tampered with physically and put back and traumatized is wrong. I'm sorry. It's called kidnapping, you know, and forced pregnancy. And I mean, it's horrible. I mean, if you think of it that way. So I don't approve. I'm sorry. I mean, whatever that was. Do you know how horrifying it is for me to even say that, you know, I think there was a fetus taken out? Do you know how horrifying that is for me to say that? How mortifying and embarrassing and humiliating it is for me to say that? And how crazy I sound for saying that? And yet, how many other women have had that experience with these creatures? So many. So many. What the heck is going on? You know, I mean, that is so traumatizing. And,
well, yeah.
I mean, that made me terrified of children. You know, I didn't have my son till I was 35. I was so afraid of children. And I had an experience once. I was a substitute teacher in Los Angeles, and I took that job because I was an actress, and it was flexible, and it had good insurance and all this. But I really was nervous. I'd only taught college, you know, up until then. And one day I had this class of little Spanish-speaking kids and no lesson plan. And I was asking them, you know, where's the paper in the room? And these little girls got up. It was like second grade class. And they came up to me and they grabbed me by the arms and they said, "Oh, we'll show you, miss." And they walked me over to this cabinet. And I swear, when these little girls had me and they were walking me across the room, my whole body went into a panic. I had a cellular memory of little things that high, like a second grader, grabbing my arms and walking me somewhere. And I mean, it was all I could do to not lose my mind for a minute there. And you know, I can't explain it. All I can do is say I'm glad it's over. I'm glad I lived through it all without going crazy, and managed to pay my bills and stay, functional. And, I lost one boyfriend over it, but that's life. And, we're still friends. It's not something I would wish on anyone. And people who go looking for it, like they go out in the desert, like, I see a UFO, I want to get abducted. I'm like, are you crazy? Do you know what you're playing around with? Do you know what you're asking for? But, do what you want. You'll see. So.
Well, yeah,
that's how I feel about it.
You may get what you wish for.
Well, there's a lot, like I said, of lack of discernment. And people can get involved with things that are very flashy and dashy and exciting, but dangerous. And, I don't need that in my life. If anything's going to interact with me, I'm going to interrogate the heck out of it. I'm not going to just get all starry-eyed and say, oh, how cool.
Right.
I'm not.
Your book now, you started, is your book available yet, or are you still in the midst of writing that?
The drama of the book. Well, see, you have to understand, I wrote the whole book in this New Age perspective, and then when I had this religious conversion, or it's a reversion, actually, I learned the right word, I thought, well, how am I going to adjust the book now? Because part of me, I want to tell the story in the way I went through it, with the mindset that I had as I went through it. And so I left the book alone, and I wrote like a new beginning and a new ending to kind of explain my new perspective, but I left the main part of the story in that voice of the person who was very starry-eyed and confused and, open-minded. Because I wanted people to see how I went through it without all of the religious judgment on top of it that I have now. So I'm probably going to still put the book out in that kind of a form. The only thing that makes me nervous is if I get quoted from that middle part of the book where I had the old mindset. I don't want that to come back to haunt me. But, it was wild. It was wild being down the black hole. I was catering in Los Angeles. I did all these actor jobs. I was catering all these big Hollywood parties, and I remember once I was working at Roland Emmerich's house, and he's this big director. He directed 2012 and all these big movies, and I'm such a conspiracy theorist, right? I'm like in this guy's house, and he's got a black and white checkerboard floor, and I'm like, ooh, I wonder if he's a Mason, and I'm making all these things up about him as I'm walking around the house with a tray of food, and I was in this Hollywood machine with all of these things going on in my mind, and just. It was a crazy time. It was exciting, to be to meet people that I met Shirley MacLaine, and I met David Icke, and I met all these people that were heroes to me. And now I see things differently, but I certainly was living in the right place to thoroughly research this and thoroughly experience it, in Los Angeles with the MUFON meetings and such and conferences. I'm glad it happened to me there. I'm glad it didn't happen to me in New Orleans. I would have thought it was a vampire, So.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Fringe Radio Show. Our guest tonight, Camille James Harman. Camille, again, thank you so much for being here and sharing your experiences.
You're welcome.
I got some more questions for you.
Great.
What about implants? Do you feel that you had something implanted? Do you feel that you may still have an implant?
Well, I had this triangle thing, which in my memory of it was the being that it was more like a vaccination. I call it a he. I don't know what it was, but he had a tool that was attached to the ceiling, and he selected a tip to put on the tool, and then stuck it in my leg to make this little triangular mark. That's what I remembered, for what it's worth. Could be totally made up, but that's how I remembered it in the hypnosis. And so I wouldn't call that one really an implant. It was more like it seemed like a vaccination or something. I don't know what it was. But then the thing in my tooth was really upsetting because my dentist was freaked out about it, and he couldn't explain it. And I actually went to a doctor who worked with MUFON, and he talked with a dentist friend of his. He said, "We'd like to have your tooth if you'll let us." And I said, I'm not losing my whole tooth over this. And I went back to my regular dentist and I said, "Could you give me a piece of that thing? That's, we worked on getting most of it out." And he said no, because it was so hard that when he was drilling, he had to keep squirting it with water, and that it was just like dust. He couldn't get a chunk of it, is the way he described it. So whatever is left of it is still in there, and it doesn't show up on X-ray, and it doesn't hurt anymore. The sense I got in the hypnosis session for that thing, the tooth thing, with a military experience, was guys in white lab coats that stuck a syringe through my cheek into my jaw and squirted something in. And the feeling I got from their conversation, the feeling I had, by the way, in that military abduction experience memory was very different than the alien memories. Like in the alien memories, when I was on the table, I was very alert. I was just immobilized, but I was like in high terror. And in the military abduction memory, I had a very drugged feeling, like I was struggling for consciousness. I was struggling for anything. And I got the feeling that they were saying things like that I was a troublemaker, and that memory included being transported in a helicopter. Like the ceiling opened up and I went out into the sky in a helicopter and was brought back to my neighborhood and told to go home and take a nap. So I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if that was real. In my real life, there was a field below my house, actually, in Silver Lake neighborhood of Los Angeles, that I was always afraid to walk the dog in this field. So that was in my memory, the field that the helicopter had let me off in. So that memory made me so angry, because if it were true, it was the most disturbing to me, actually. But those were the only things as far as implants. I did have one other dream. I was bitten by a spider, and in the morning I woke up and I had this 1-inch incision on my right shoulder in the back. And I would have this feeling occasionally like a bee stinging me there, and then I would have a jolt of electricity that would go down my arm. And I had a guy I met at a party, a psychic guy, and he picked up on that. He said, "What have you got in your right shoulder?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And he worked on me, and he was able to make that stop, so I didn't have that bee sting shooting down the arm sensation anymore. So I sure met some interesting people along the way who helped me. It was pretty wild, the synchronicities and the different people that came into my life that had pieces of the puzzle. But that's as far as I've gotten on implants.
Gotcha.
I haven't had anything taken out.
Gotcha. Did you? Here's a question that I had for you. After your experiences, did you see some sort of physical benefit? Now I know you went through a lot of emotional things, but did you see some sort of physical benefit? I mean, some people talk about after they've had gone through an abduction scenario, they talk about, they go for years without having any colds or any sickness or any fever. Did you see any benefit in some way, shape, or form?
I didn't see any benefits. The only thing I would say that was noticeable, I had this great ability to find other abductees, like out in strange situations, like meeting people at parties. Like if I went to a party, I would find the one person in the room that was also abducted, and we would start talking. So I would have this ability to kind of vibe whoever also was afflicted, I should say, and we would have some kind of resonance and find each other in a room. And that happened over and over and over and over again. And I had such a big mouth about it, that it was likely for it to happen. But that was the only thing that I thought was kind of cool at the time. I was like, oh, so cool. I can always find other abductees. We just, like, hook up somehow. So that was interesting, but it wasn't really a physical thing.
Yeah. All right, here's another question for you. See what you think about this one. It says, when disclosure happens and the government introduces us to our new friends, how will the victims of these abductions be compensated? Will we just get a half-hearted apology, or should we be able to sue for damages? And I guess what's your thoughts on disclosure?
Well, I'm kind of like with my uncle who says, if it's true, it's NSA, and they're never going to tell you the real truth, and you're just going to have to get over it and move on with your life. So I think a secret of this magnitude, I don't think they would ever tell us the truth. They may tell us something, but it's not going to be the truth. I doubt it, especially if they're demons. What are they going to say? Oh, we've made deals with demons. We're all screwed. Everybody pray. I mean, what are they going to say that? So I think if they give us any kind of answer, it'll be a lie. And I know Bill Clinton was on Jimmy Kimmel the other night and said something along the lines of, well, I hope if the aliens are real, it's not like Independence Day, and
right.
You know, maybe that's what we need to all bond together. He kind of gave a little mini version of Ronald Reagan's speech, and it was kind of creepy because that makes me think they may use a Project Bluebeam scenario to scare everyone into a fake alien invasion to get an instant one-world government. And that's a very logical thing for them to pull. So I would be very cautious if there was an alien invasion, and you know, it may not be an alien invasion. It may be a big staged event. So,
right.
Yeah.
Kind of like MH370.
Oh, I don't know that.
Oh, the airline thing.
Oh, the plane, yeah.
That is so. That is such a. That is just. That's unbelievable. I can't believe they. I can't believe they can't find this thing. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's very fishy.
Unbelievable. Yes, and they keep forgetting about the poor the 240 people that possibly have perished. It's sad. Camille, what do you got coming up in the near future? What's going on with you?
I want to finish my book. I want to have it out there, everything down. I just really I want to represent the Catholics, to be honest, because there are a lot of really good Christian writers in this field,
sure.
And I feel the Catholics are not represented, and so that'll be my contribution, I guess. And I just want to grow in my faith. That's really all I want to do. I want to raise my kid. And, my husband and I have had a really tough year because the whole, him being an astrologer is real conflict with the church. And I've had some, we've had some tough times with my decision. But, I really want to walk away from this phenomenon. I just want to finish my book, and it started out as a paranormal memoir, and now it's become really a reversion testimonial. So it's like I don't even know how to market this thing. It's too weird for the Catholics, and it's too Catholic for the New Age people. I don't know who's going to buy the book, but I'm going to finish writing it at least. So that's my goal.
Well, I think that I'm just glad to see that what you have works well for you, and we want to wish you the best and love to have you back on. And we got to get your husband on and talk about astrology.
My husband's a great guest. He's really a genius at what he does, and he's I can't condemn it. It's really hard. That's one of the things that's hard for me being Catholic now. He's like, how can you condemn astrology when you've seen how great it is for 15 years you've known me? And I'm like, you're right. I can't.
Right.
It's really hard for me. So he's amazing at what he does. He helps a lot of people. He's been doing it for a long time. So. Well,
again, I applaud you for your strength and love to get a copy of your book when it's out. And we will stay in touch to get your husband on. But we want to thank you so much for giving up your morning and being here with us and sharing all your insight. Very interesting.
Yes, it was.
Well, thank you for being very sweet about my decision, about how it all shook down for me, and not coming down too hard on me.
No.
It's hard. It's hard to it's hard to come to this conclusion on these kind of format shows sometimes. People don't like it.
It's about respect, and everybody has an opinion, and they need to be open. Everybody needs to be open-minded, and you can't, you don't know until you've walked in somebody's shoes.
And who are we to judge?
Who are we to judge? Camille, thank you again.
Thank you.
Get some rest. We'll stay in touch, and we'll get your husband on real soon.
Okay, thanks so much.
Take care.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.